House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila says Nigeria needs to cut cost of governance. We dissect the way to go in the midst of tough economic times in the country. And the governor of Rivers State, Wike, says the APC government has failed Nigerians. Details of what he said shortly. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Lagos, Nigeria. Today, let's begin with a conversation on the government of the day and the opposition. The governor of Rivers State, Wike, is perhaps known for hard-hitting comments. And as a member of the Nigeria's main opposition party, People's Democratic Party, PDP, he has come hard on the ruling APC, and categorically today he said that APC has failed Nigerians. Governor Wike believes that now it's time to focus on governance instead of politics in order to demonstrate commitment to the people who elected him into office, while criticizing the ruling APC for what he considers failure on their electoral promises. Take a listen to Governor Wike.
Nigeria is hoping on PDP. APC has failed Nigeria. APC has failed what? Nigeria. So there's nothing anybody can talk about again. No, there's no more time for promises. You have promised and you have failed. Nothing to try you again. No. They have tried APC and it has not worked. Nigeria had realized that it's better they stay with PDP that has the future, that has the interest of Nigeria, than a party that every day excuses. Every day promises. We're tired. You know there's a problem in Nigeria. And then you make promise to Nigerians that if you vote for me, I will do this. Now they have voted for you. Yet you cannot solve the problem. The party cannot solve any problem.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us today. Governor Wike of Rivers. Tonight on the program, what we are going to be dissecting, and I have some very interesting guests on the program tonight that you will love to listen to, is about the cost of governance in Nigeria. Do we have too much that goes into government? We dissect that for you. Don't forget, we are in the COVID-19 era where there is little to spend now. The whole world is experiencing a lot of economic troubles. Even the United Kingdom is experiencing some economic woes. So let's check out some political stories that we have on our political roundup, and I'll introduce my guest on our conversation tonight.
There was some pandemonium today at the rally of the PDP in Ward 9, Apana, Etsako West local government area of Edo State. Gunshots were heard as the People's Democratic Party takes its campaign trail to the area. Addressing supporters at the rally ground, Governor Godwin Obaseki asked the party supporters not to panic, alleging that the threat is coming from the opposition, who is afraid of competition from the PDP.
We were coming here now. You saw what happened. Himself and his people, they went to hire guns to begin to shoot so that we cannot come for this rally. But on September 19th, we will finally prepare them.
And to the campaign of the APC, a prominent traditional ruler in Edo State, the Okumagbe of Wepa Wano Kingdom, has reiterated the need to have issue-based campaigns and discourage electoral violence. The monarch, His Royal Highness Dr. George Agabo, said this when he received the Edo APC governorship candidate, Pastor Sage Ize Yamu, and his deputy, Malam Gani Audu, at his palace in Agenebode, Isako East local government area of the state.
The simple agenda is an acronym that stands for security and social welfare, infrastructural development, manpower development, public-private partnership, leadership and example, and employment and empowerment schemes.
The trial of a former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohamed Adoke, and an Abuja-based businessman, Aliu Abubakar, has been adjourned to Monday, September the 7th, and will run till Friday, September the 11th. Mr. Adoke and his co-accused were rearraigned by the EFCC last Tuesday on a 14-count amended charge bordering on alleged money laundering and corruption.
So when people say cut your coat according to your cloth, what do they mean really? Does it apply to Nigeria? Perhaps it does. So I'm going to give you a benefit of what this means and how it applies to Nigeria. So the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, is calling for a cut in the cost of governance and an improvement in internally generated revenue and collection to free up resources that could be deployed to fund policy initiatives. The Speaker gave the advice at the commencement of the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper revenue consultations by the House Committee on Finance. He says he is disappointed that there has been a consistent failure to adhere to the revenue remittance agreement to which many of the agencies have committed. Take a listen to Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila.
We have a responsibility to act with urgent determination to build the infrastructure of opportunity that is required to lift millions of our fellow citizens out of poverty. We recognize that we cannot accomplish these objectives using loans and outside finances alone. Therefore, we need impose deep cuts in the cost of governance and improve internal revenue generation and collection. The revenue-generating agencies of the federal government of Nigeria have a vital role to play in this regard.
So you heard him there. We need deep cut in the cost of governance. So where do we begin from? For some criticisms that have come to the system of government we operate, some people say, let's go back to when we were operating parliamentary system of government. Some will even say we do not need a bicameral system of legislature. Some will say, look, the rate in which we have used the spread of appointments across the country is a major problem. Let's dissect these for you. Tonight, I have a former member of the National Assembly, Senator Shehu Sani. He joins us from our Abuja studio, and an economist, Mr. Bismarck Ruwani. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight on the program. Let me begin with you, Senator Shehu Sani. You have been in Parliament, and you understand what it means to be, as a senator. I understand that lawmakers have aides and those who work with them. And for those who have criticized to say there is too much burden on government with the amount of people who work in government. Is that true?
Thank you for having me. Well, first and foremost, it is important we understand what cutting cost of governance means. Cutting cost of governance is about frugality. It is about institutionalizing a culture of savings. It's about probity and also about transparency. Cutting the cost of governance is not simply about reducing the salaries and earnings of legislatures, but it's also about restructuring the economy fundamentally to ensure that profligacy and corruption in the system is expunged. For example, when we talk about cutting cost of governance, we simply go to the earnings of legislatures. But where you have a situation where the two main political parties, the PDP and APC, have in their manifesto the concept of running a smaller government. Now, from what we have on the ground here, going back to the history of the last 3 to 4 years, in 2015, the number of federal ministries was 28. Now we have about 42. And then we have a system where ministries were split. You have NEMA, and then you have Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management. You have Ministry of Police Affairs, and then you have an Interior. You also have transportation, and then you have aviation. You now also have 3 agencies, the NTA, the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, and Voice of Nigeria, all can we collapsed to have the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation. So it is not simply about the salaries of legislatures, but ensuring that across all the scale, from the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, there is a drastic reduction in spending. The Singaporean model have always been an inspiration to many countries where the economy is connected to the earning of public officials. That's not the case here. Some years ago, we had the Resource Mobilization and Physical Allocation Commission making a point that there is a need to reduce the cost of governance, the earning of legislatures, the executive, and whatever, but that has not come to fruition. Even when the present administration came into office, there were similar pledges, but it never took place. So in general terms, if we are going to cut the cost of governance, then we have to do it holistically and realistically. And also it involves restructuring the economy. A nation that exports 2.5 million barrels of crude oil is having 36 state assemblies, 36 state governors with commissioners, and then you have about 800 federal parastatals. So the implementation of the report of Oronsai will help very much. So it's not simply about cutting salaries and ESTA codes and allowances, but something needs to be done drastically. And cutting code of governance comes in the spirit of when you have a low revenue, then you need to devise ways and means to which you can block wastages and leakages and also ensure probity within the economy so that there will be enough funds, enough resources for capital projects, which is virtually non-existent now. So the idea of cutting costs of governance as it exists today is still a myth. We talk too much about it and do nothing about it.
Senator Shosani, let me bring Mr. Bismarck Rwani into it. He's the economist. Can Nigeria afford what we bear as running costs for government and governance in Nigeria? And if we were cutting costs of governance, where do we start from, Mr. Rwani?
First and foremost, let's look at the governance in the perspective of the economy. We have to situate what we can afford as to what we produce. Firstly, the Nigerian economy is $420 billion. That's the total magnitude of the economy. That's total output of goods and services. Secondly, we have 924,000 square kilometers, 36 states, 1 federal capital territory, 774 local governments. With the total number of legislators, total number of ministries, total number of special assistants, total number of permanent secretaries, the country is grossly overgoverned. The country is not up to the size of California, state of California, and yet we have more public servants than probably the United States that has 52 states. So we need to ask ourselves, what is the level of labor productivity? And one thing that has to come into mind, labor productivity in Nigeria today is minus 1.7%, while GDP growth was about plus 1.8%. What this means is that even if you kill everybody in Nigeria, this economy will be able to grow at this rate because it's a natural wealth economy, not a produced wealth economy. In other words, we just extract oil, sell it, share it, and spend it. So there's a fundamental structural problem with the way the economy is operating at this point in time. We need to get back to basics. We are overgoverned, we spend too much, we spend money we have not earned, and we spend money that we have borrowed. So that is standard. Now, how this country, the same 924,000 square kilometers, had 3 regions in the 60s. And those 3 regions, God bless him, late Bafome Awolowo, God bless him, late Sadana Sokoto, and late Azikwe, they were premiers of this region. The total number of ministries in the then Western region, which is today made up of about 8 to 9 states, were only 12. And they ran more efficiently than what you have today. So the structure of government, the operating modus operandi which the government is using, and not only government, even in the private sector, there is an excessive use of labor with very low productivity. And that tells you what it is. So what has happened over the years is that our output has been growing at plus 1.89 or average of 2.9%, while our population has been growing at 3.2%. So the average Nigerian is getting poorer as we go along. So I think first and foremost, let's address our fundamental low productivity, high governance, inefficient structure of running both private and public sector, and then over and above anything, leakages. There's a lot of leakages, pilfering and stealing. And Sean, what you must know is that since the lockdown in March to this point in time, only level 14 officers and above were going to work. I think on Monday, level 12 and 13 will join. How come government was able to operate even more efficiently? Because one hypothesis is that many of the people going to work were just there as bottlenecks and extortion, part of an extortion racket. And that's why the economy is more productive now than people at home.
Please, let's go for a break. But when we come back, correct me if I'm wrong, we have about 15 departments, which is like a ministry in the United States, in the cabinet of the President of the United States. And in Nigeria, we have way more. How do we cut all of this, and where do we go from here? Some of the solutions are cutting cost of governance. More on that after the break, everyone. Join us again.
We have a responsibility to act with urgent determination to build the infrastructure of opportunity that is required to lift millions of our fellow citizens out of poverty. We recognize that we cannot accomplish these objectives using loans and outside finances alone. Therefore, we need to impose deep cuts in the cost of governance and improve internal revenue generation and collection. The revenue-generating agencies of the federal government of Nigeria have a vital role to play in this regard. There has thus far been a consistent failure to adhere to the revenue remittance agreements to which many of these agencies have committed. We have credible reports that these desperately needed funds have in many cases been diverted to finance unnecessary trivialities. At the same time, the government is left scrambling for alternative sources to fund priority projects. We cannot afford this dynamic, and we will not tolerate it anymore.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with Senator Shehu Sani and Mr. Bismarck Riwani. Mr. Riwani is an economist, and Mr. Senator Shehu Sani is a former lawmaker. Let's get back to our Abuja studio with Senator Sani. Senator Shehu Sani, for those who have criticized members of the Nigerian parliament, you said that that may not be the major problem of Nigeria, but for those who have criticized that their salaries are obscene, you are one of those who, I mean, one person who came out in the last, in the 8th Assembly to say the running cost of a senator is 13.5 million naira every month, and he earns about, that's aside, the running cost does not include that 700,000 monthly. You also were quoted to have said that it's becoming difficult for what used to happen in the past to happen now, but I can tell you that I would love a situation where we do away with running costs, constituency projects, and leave senators and members of House of Reps with salaries. Do you still hold that belief?
Well, I strongly hold that belief in the sense that one of the basic reasons why people hustle for power most of times it's not about service, it's about the law of office, the privileges, and what accrues from it, the benefits attached to that office. And as a lawmaker, I believe that those things are distractions. If you will simply be saddled with the responsibility of making laws and holding the government accountable, then at least the positions will be less attractive and people will not spend heavy amount of money in order to find themselves in such places. And it will also help the country if we have a parliament that operates part-time and also one that will ensure that what is first and foremost before it is about lawmaking and performing oversight function. But where you have constituency projects being mandated on legislators, then you find it difficult for people on the ground to understand the difference between parliamentarians and people in the executive arm of the state. And that has always been a major problem. It has always been a distraction. So I believe that if lawmakers would simply be left with the concept of making laws and performing their oversight function, the quality of representation and parliamentary representation and debates, and also the quality of outputs of things that come out of that parliament will far be better.
So, Senator Shozani, sorry, let me ask this. So, you agree, do you agree, Senator Sani, with those who said that the salaries and emoluments of lawmakers are obscene?
Well, in the context of the situation in which we find ourselves today, it is obscene, but it's also equally obscene on the side of the executive and other bureaucratic arm of the state. You don't just cut the salary of parliamentarians, but you should make sure that other arms of the state are also being in league with that cost-cutting measure. Because if you only concentrate on one arm, you will not actually realize what you want. So I am of the belief that there is that very need to cut the cost of allowances and salaries of parliamentarians as well as people in the executive arm of the state at all levels, at the state and also at the federal level.
Let me bring back Mr. Bismarck Kiwani. I was making allusion to the United States, where we have in cabinet just about 15 departments, which is equivalent of the ministry and the ministers in Nigeria federal cabinet. So give us a sense of what is happening here. Are we at a difficult situation considering what we saw happened to United Kingdom, where the economy is experiencing some troubles? If we do not cost of governance, are we headed for a big trouble?
No, I think you are comparing oranges and apples. The United States economy is $24 trillion in size. So the president of the United States has that kind of responsibility. The size of the Nigerian economy is less than $500 billion. So in other words, the American economy is 44 or 45 times larger than the Nigerian economy. So, and it's not a question of the cost of governance, it's the productivity of the people. Productivity in government, productivity in the private sector, total productivity, factor productivity is low in Nigeria. So until you do something about productivity, then you will not be able to grow that pie. And part of the governance structure is that some of these people, the law of diminishing returns says that if you increase labor and keep all other factors constant, a point comes when the productivity output will increase and then begin to decline. Nigeria had crossed the point of declining marginal productivity a long time ago. We are falling over ourselves. You go into an office, there are 10 of them sitting around the place, all of them waiting there to extort and take bribes from people rather than produce. So it's not just in government offices, everywhere. So the work ethic, the productivity, the skill level, the technology and all that. Now, what's the answer? I've just told the problem. The answer is this. There's the IPIS program, which takes away the ghost workers. You can see that some people are fighting against it. There's the Oronsaye report, which says that multiplicity of departments, and there are some governments that have 100 special assistants. The governor has 100 special assistants. There's a commissioner for happiness, commissioner for sadness, and commissioner for, COVID. Now, all those things have to be done away with. In any case, the country cannot afford. You cannot have all of this size of governance, and yet you are borrowing. Everybody, the deficit as a percentage of GDP in Nigeria is going up from 3 all the way to 5%. So you are borrowing to pay just people who are doing nothing, or even anything they are getting in the way, together with leakages. So I don't think we should emphasize too much on the size of governance, but slash those things, because if you when we sold PHCN and all of that to the private sector, all the staff went with them. If you concession the airport that will go with the private or new owners. Right. So by nature, natural evolution will show that the size of government will come down as time goes on.
All right.
So having said that, now you now increase the productivity by skills, vocational training, technology, and then you go further to block the leakages, because there are also leakages. When you put all of this in together, you will get a better Nigeria going on forward. But all we do is complain, and try and do a blame game. I think that is not going to be that doesn't solve the problem.
I mean, it does look like Mr. Riwani and Senator Sani has agreed tonight that we've been doing more of the talking, but the Oransayo report, where is it? What are we doing about it? That seems to be an agreeing point for both of my guests tonight on the program. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for coming on. Senator Shehu Sani, thank you for your thoughts tonight. And Mr. Bismarck Riwani, it's good to see you again. Thank you both for joining us tonight. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.